Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And fired up that you're here with us. We're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. And we got lots to do over the next 2 hours. Good weekend for LSU in terms of wins and losses. They get the dub over UCLA. Tough injury in the process. We'll certainly talk about that. It was a wild day in Southeastern Conference in football. We'll talk about that an hour from right now. Saints dropped their first decision of the year. That comes up at the bottom of the hour. Denton Day with us always on Mondays to talk the national scene in college football. We'll do that at 2:30. And oh, by the way, pretty big Monday night game for those of us around here in Baton Rouge. So we'll talk about that as well. So as I laid out, there's lots and lots and lots to do. Appreciate you starting your work week off with us here on ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll talk LSU and UCLA in the next segment. We'll talk Saints at 1:30. I want to lead the show today with the injury news from Harold Perkins. Obviously, yesterday the news breaking, Matt Zenitz over at CBS Sports had it that Harold Perkins suffered a torn ACL and was going to be lost for the season. Brian Kelly, just about 1 hour ago, got to the podium and confirmed that as well, said they don't have a timetable for surgery, don't have a timetable for him to return, certainly not going to speculate on whether or not the draft is what's next for Harold Perkins. None of that's really pertinent at this current juncture. It's just very, very disappointing that Harold Perkins is lost for the season with that torn ACL. It was kind of a weird play. It was a 3rd and 35, and UCLA throws it over the middle, and Perkins goes to throw a shoulder, and in the course of throwing that shoulder on the reception, his knee kind of buckled. He went down. He was able to walk very gingerly off the field. They took him to the medical tent. He walked off the field very gingerly there late in the third quarter with a towel over his head, and then he was seen leaving Tiger Stadium on crutches and a knee brace, and that's never a really good sign. They did the imaging yesterday in the morning. Based on the test they were able to run on Saturday evening, it didn't look good, but they wanted to get the test done anyway. They did, and it confirmed that injury. So Harold Perkins will be lost for the year, and that's a blow to the LSU defense. Now, Brian Kelly did today kind of go into what this means for the defense. And you look at Perkins, he was able to play the outside linebacker spot. He was able to play that star a little bit. He was able to go out there and nickel. He can cover. He can rush off the edge. He brings a ton of versatility. And he's obviously a freak athlete. Those two things are beyond a doubt. They're beyond argument. He's very athletic and he's very versatile. He wasn't very productive through 4 games. The thought was, okay, Matt House didn't quite figure out what needed to be done last year. You bring Blake Baker in. He's got 8 months to figure Harold Perkins out. What do you do with this guy? They'll figure it out. And 4 games, 17 tackles, 5 of those solo. He only had a tackle and a half for loss, and he did not have a sack for this LSU team to this point. That's just not a huge impact on this defense. But he was able to do multiple things, and he is a guy that as an offense you do need to be aware of as you're game planning. You know, in his LSU career, he's got 13 sacks. He's got 27 and a half tackles for loss. He's been very, very disruptive. It just hasn't necessarily been the last 4 weeks. And it's interesting because you look back at that USC game, and early in that game, USC's got a 3rd down, and Perkins comes flying off the offensive right side and blows up the play at the mesh point, and he creates a punt. And you're going, this is the guy. This is what we're going to see this year. Baker's going to unlock him. He's got the new number 7 on. He's rocking and rolling. This is going to be an All-American type money year for Harold Perkins. And unfortunately, that year is cut short, and LSU wasn't able to do much with Harold Perkins this year as far as productivity goes. Now, you look at what they do from here, and Brian Kelly elaborated on that. When LSU goes to what they call their Buffalo look, which is a traditional defense with 3 linebackers on the field, you're going to see West Weeks, the older Weeks brother, play in the middle. You're going to see Greg Penn and Whit Weeks play on the outside. Those guys will be the outside backers in a 3 linebacker set. When they go to nickel and they play star, Major Burns and Kylan Jackson will be the guys who play that star role, and then you'll see Penn and Whit Weeks, the younger Weeks, at linebacker. And that's kind of where things rest. And as I lay that out, you understand that LSU is not as dynamic without Harold Perkins on the field, because having Major Burns or Kylan Jackson play the star is a different skill set than Harold Perkins playing there. And having West Weeks on the field with Whit and Greg Penn on the outside, he's not as dynamic a player as Harold Perkins is. But I can't sit here and tell you that LSU's defense is crippled because Harold Perkins isn't on the field. I will say that if you asked me 5 weeks ago, as LSU was preparing to play Southern Cal, who are the 2 guys that you would have the most difficult time replacing on the LSU defense? I think I immediately would have gone to Jacobian Guillory and Harold Perkins. Like, you don't have a proven SEC defensive tackle like Guillory. Now, he wasn't a starter in his previous time, but he's proven to be functional at defensive tackle. You didn't have anybody that was proven in that way entering the season. And as far as Perkins goes, and Brian Kelly talked about this today, he's like, we don't really have anybody else hanging around who can go cover a wide out in the slot and then come rip off the edge and beat a 315-pound offensive tackle. Like, we don't have the guy that can do both. They've got some guys who can go cover in the slot, Major Burns and Kylan Jackson, who he's talking about. Sage Ryan can go down there and do it too. They've got some guys that can cover in the slot, but those guys aren't as good rushing the passer. They've got some guys that can come in and play the linebacker spot, but they may not be able to drop with an SEC slot guy. So that versatility is what you lose. It's not necessarily the production. And I think West Weeks is an okay player, and I think he can get in there and give you some quality snaps. But keep in mind, this is a guy who has not been a starter for a year and a half at LSU, and he hasn't been a starter a year and a half at LSU, where their defenses haven't exactly been world beaters.
And he was hurt, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was hurt this week. He was in street clothes. But like, he hasn't been a starter on 2 defenses that I would not describe as dominant. And then you look at the star with Burns and Kylan Jackson, and those guys haven't been elite level playmakers in their time at LSU yet either. So I don't think it would be – I think it would be disingenuous for me to get up here and go, yeah, Perkins got hurt, but he had no sacks and a tackle for loss. Who cares? Like, I feel like some people will say that. I think that's disingenuous. That guy's a really good athlete, and quite frankly, while LSU's trying to figure out their defense and become competent on that side of the ball with some really good offenses coming up on the schedule, like, I'd like to try to figure it out with Harold Perkins in the lineup as opposed to him out of the lineup. But I'm also not going to sit here and go, oh, my God, you lost the All-American. They'll never recover from this. I don't think they're going to be as good as they could be without him, but I also don't think you're taking away the heartbeat of the defense. This is not taking Tyrann Mathieu off the 11 defense. So it's really unfortunate. You hate it for the player. You hate it for Harold Perkins. This was his 3rd year at LSU. He got a chance to go to SEC Media Days. He's wearing the number 7. He's been a great player for LSU for the last couple of years. But this year, they've just kind of struggled to find that spot, and then boom, in the course of one snap, one play, one hit, all that goes up in smoke. And so we'll see when Harold Perkins does, in fact, have surgery. We'll see when that day comes, what his decision is about next year's football season, whether he goes into the NFL draft or whether he comes back to LSU to try to play again, or whether something else is a decision that he wants to make. All that is way down the line. Right now, it's just a super big bummer that Harold Perkins is not going to be able to play for LSU for the rest of this season. You certainly think about him and his family at this point. If you're Brian Kelly, okay, what do we do next? And he kind of laid it out there. It makes you very thin at linebacker. All the guys that I just told you at those linebacker spots, whether that's Whit Weeks, West Week, Greg Penn, like, that's all the upperclassmen that you've got at this point at linebacker. Kelly did mention a true freshman right after Perkins when he was talking about those guys. And he said, look, Xavier Atkins is probably the next guy up. And you're talking about getting a true freshman out there at this point. And that's really all you've got left are freshmen after those guys. So you were thin at linebacker. You're thinner at linebacker. You've had some freshmen step up this year, as Brian Kelly pointed out. When Jacobian Giller went out, Ahmad Bro has gone in, and he's played pretty well. When John Emery got hurt, Caden Durham went in there against South Carolina and played pretty well. If you've got to ask Xavier Atkins to go out there and play right now, hopefully he can fill in those shoes like those other true freshmen in his class have done. But that's not where LSU thought they would be at this point. That's not the plan entering the season, but it's the plan now that LSU is going to have to move forward without Harold Perkins. So they will start that this week with South Alabama. That's our look at Harold Perkins. We'll take a time out. When we come back, I'll look at the entirety of the game, really a tale of two halves. And if you're an optimist, you probably thought it was pretty good. If you're a pessimist, you probably thought it was pretty bad. It was probably somewhere in between, and we'll talk about LSU and UCLA when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Guys, how about a golf simulator? Have you ever used a golf simulator? They're super awesome. It's got incredible technology. You can see how far you hit it, get all your metrics. You can use it as like a driving range, but it's just a screen right there in front of you. Plus, you can have some fun. You can play Pebble Beach and Augusta National, and those things are a blast. I've played with a number of them to this point. If you're looking to get one at your home, Audio Video Security Solutions can help you out with it. I think a lot of folks would go, that sounds pretty cool, but I don't even know where to start. We'll call Mitchell Fisher and his team at Audio Video Security Solutions. They've done golf simulators in the past, and they were happy to install one for you. It can be hot in the summer months, and it was hot on Saturday. Tough to go out there and play 18 holes of golf. Sometimes the courses can get a little crowded, or if you just don't have time to go get some work at a driving range, but have some time once it gets dark in your home, golf simulator. Audio Video Security Solutions can help you out with that. Give Mitchell Fisher a call. He is the owner of that company, and he wants you to call his cell phone. That's how they do business over there at Audio Video Security Solutions. It's 225-439-7920. Again, that's 225-439-7920. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward. always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Osh.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
LSU and UCLA Saturday afternoon inside Tiger Stadium, 34-17 was the final. I know a ton's been made of the heat and the attendance and all that kind of stuff. Matt's got a column up at LouisianaSports.net talking about the attendance. And I'll tell you, inside the stadium, like it was a little weird because the shaded side, the west side, was full. I mean, full. And then the sun side on the east was empty. I mean, some people tried to tough it out in the first half, but everybody went under for halftime, and then very few resurfaced for the second half. It was purely it was a sun issue. It was just too hot to stay on that side of the stadium. And because of that, it just did not feel like a big football game. You had LSU and UCLA, a national brand from a power conference, come in for the first time ever, and you had a tie game at halftime. And it did not feel at all like a big game. It felt more like a spring game than a real regular season game.
We just need to get like a sun visor we can put up on the west side of the stadium.
Yeah, or just tell ESPN to fly a kite. We're playing at 7 o'clock.
Well, yeah.
But I don't fault the folks that left. Like, it is what it is. It was very, very hot, and there's just not a lot of relief you can get sitting in those metal bleachers when it's 94 outside and the real feels 105 and the wind's not blowing and you're just a sitting duck. It is what it is. I get it. And it does take away from the environment of the game, but that's not really the big story. I think for me, I can't recall a game that was more different half to half than this one. In the first half, the score was tied 17-17. Total yards was 210 to 206. First downs were 12 to 10. Third downs, UCLA was 4 out of 7. LSU was 3 out of 6. Average yards per play were within a yard. Time of possession was within 3 minutes. Like it was what and what in the first half. The second half, LSU absolutely dominated the game, start to finish. LSU outscored them 17-0. Total yards was 244 to 89. UCLA ran for 6 yards in the game. In the second half, you look at third down, LSU was 7 of 9. UCLA was 1 out of 5. LSU controlled the ball for 20 minutes. UCLA had it for 10. Like, everything flipped in the second half, and LSU completely controlled it. Whether that was because LSU made great halftime adjustments, I don't know. Whether that was because UCLA was scorched and out of gas because they were standing in the sun all day, I don't know. Whether that's just because LSU's way better than UCLA, I don't know. It was probably all of that kind of piled into one, and LSU controlled the game in the second half. So if you're an optimist, you could look at the second half and you could look at what LSU was able to do, and you can look at the stat sheet in totality, and you can go, oh, well, look, LSU out first down on 27-17. LSU was 67% on third down. UCLA was 42%. LSU outgained them by 165 yards. You could look at the whole game and go, that was really impressive that LSU just salted them away. You could also look at it and go, hey, this UCLA team sucks. Hunt told me that all week. Everybody said that all week. And we were tied with them at halftime, 17-17. That's unacceptable. And it's the same kind of thing that we talked about last week with South Carolina. You could have either said, gutty win to come back from 17 down, or you shouldn't be playing with your food against a bad South Carolina team. It just depends on what your outlook is. But LSU did get the win. And to me, the biggest story, and this is what I wrote my column on after the game, was that it felt like to me over the last 2 weeks that LSU is developing a second strength. You're looking for an identity in the team. And since the start of this season, when you went out to LA to play to Las Vegas to play Southern Cal, since the start of this season, you've known you can throw the ball. Garrett Nussmeier can sling it around. He's making great decisions. He's being very accurate. His wide receivers are making plays. His tight end is making plays. LSU's controlling the clock with the passing game. They're controlling possession. They're efficient. Like, everything is good in the passing game. They can very much do that. Do they run it great? Probably not. Do they stop the run great? Probably not. Do they stop the pass great? No. But there is one more strength that I'm picking up on. They can rush the passer. Braden Swinson was SEC Defensive Player of the Week last week for his 3-sack game. He had 2 more in this game. He was SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. You got Savion Jones back there with another sack. And LSU had 5 more in this game. And even in the first half, when Ethan Garbers was making some plays for UCLA, making some plays down the field, LSU was hitting him. That touchdown right before the half, like they popped him, but he made a pretty good play. They are rushing the passer, and that's going to be the identity of this team. They have real issues in coverage. You're not going to hear me dispute that. Y'all all heard me in camp come on here and yell and scream about how I thought they were suspect in coverage, and I think they are. But they can rush the passer. Braden Swinson can rush the passer. Savion Jones can rush the passer. Yes, it hurts not to have Harold Perkins, but Paris Shand can rush the passer from the interior. Whit Weeks can rush the passer. You've seen, Sage Ryan came on that blitz against South Carolina. And they were in Ethan Garber's face much of the night. And that's what they're going to try to do. The formula for this team is to throw the ball, complete a very high percentage of those, control the clock, put up points, get a lead, and then pin your ears back and go get the quarterback. It's hard for me to believe that this LSU team is going to be awesome against the run with true freshmen playing at defensive tackle and career backups. Like, it's hard for me to think that they're going to be a dominant front against the run. Now, you look at this game, the stats look really, really good against the run. They're helped out from sack numbers. But you held them to 0.6 yards per rush and 14 rushing yards if you take all the sack yardage out. You turned UCLA into a pass-only team, a one-dimensional team. You sent the pass rushers after Ethan Garbers, and you made plays. You forced a couple of fumbles. You forced him to flush out of the pocket and throw an interception. That was another play that Braden Swinson makes. You control the line of scrimmage with your pass rush, and UCLA didn't have an answer for it. And that, I think, is going to be what LSU attempts to do game in and game out. It's going to be tough. You got veteran quarterbacks that you're facing, and Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. Like, those guys are old. They've been around. You may see Graham Mertz. But I think LSU is proving itself to be a good pass rushing team. And you've got to have a second pitch here. LSU can't just be a team that can throw it, and that's it. I hope the running game progresses. I hope the young corners grow up. But right now, it's go rush the passer. And Blake Baker wants to do that. What's the one thing we've heard about Blake Baker since he got here? Like, they're going to be aggressive, and they want to get into that Prowler package. And that Prowler package is designed to do one thing. It is designed to go get the opposing passer. And Garbers had success early, no doubt about it. But in the second half, that success was fleeting. And you look at it in the second half, he was only able to throw for 83 yards in the second half. First half was rough. You let him throw for 198. And after a quarter of the game, UCLA didn't have a rushing yard. But I'm encouraged by that portion of what I saw in the game on Saturday. Braden Swinson is playing at an all-SEC level right now, and I think teams are going to have to start paying more attention to him, which could free up some opportunities for other people across the line of scrimmage. Brian Kelly talked about after the game that Kevin Peoples has done such a good job in coaching Swinson and in coaching Savion Jones because they're very different players. Swinson's closer to like 240, and Savion Jones is closer to like 275. Savion Jones is a big, big physical dude. And you look at Swinson, and he's a little lighter and a little bit more of a terror off the edge. But both those guys are complementing each other right now, and they're making a lot of plays in the backfield. We know that LSU had 9 tackles for loss and 5 sacks in the game against South Carolina, and then you fast forward to this one, you have 5 more sacks, and that's good stuff. You 5 more hurries, you forced a fumble, had the interception, as I mentioned. So I'm not ready to sit here and proclaim that LSU is some sort of title contender, some sort of playoff contender, and I understand some frustration with letting UCLA come in and hang around for 2 quarters. But I'm also looking at this from another perspective, and I'm kind of going, I knew this roster was a little bit limited entering the season, and I knew that they were going to have some of their issues on defense, but if they can develop, and this coaching staff can be what we think it is as far as elite talent recruiting and then the development that follows. I mean, Bo Davis and Kevin Peoples are coaching these guys up. And LSU did a better job against the run. No real explosive plays. And they did a really good job rushing the passer. They got to cover better. But I thought it was okay. This may prove to be a weak win, and this may be a situation where moving forward you get exposed because you're beating up on some lesser teams. I'm not ready to declare that right now. I'll leave the window open for it. I'm not saying that's impossible. But to me, I thought it was a really good second half. I think you've got a true strength in your passing offense, a great quarterback who was SEC Offensive Player of the Week for his 32 for 44 effort, 352 yards and 3 touchdowns. We've kind of been desensitized, y'all, a little bit to the passing game because there was a time 5 years ago that I would have looked at that stat line, 32 for 44, that's 73%, for 352 and 3 touchdowns, and I'd have been digging through the record books to find out if this was the best passing performance in LSU history. I remember doing that after Joe Burrow left Texas. But now we're kind of desensitized to it because Joe did it 5 or 6 times, and Jaden did it 5 or 6 times, and now Garrett Nussmeier stepped up. And we've gotten to a point as LSU fans where we can look at a guy who has a 73% completion percentage on 44 throws, 352 yards and 3 touchdowns with no picks, and you're like, it's UCLA. They got to do better than that. It's like, whoa, kind of come up a little bit, and the reason for that is playing on Monday Night Football tonight with Jaden Daniels playing against Joe Burrow. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but. An uneven performance from LSU, not a 60-minute performance, but a really, really good 30-minute performance for LSU in the second half of that game against UCLA, and you did enough to get out of there and get the win. Now you got one more before what we've been talking about for, 3 weeks now? You got one more game, South Alabama. You win that one, put it away, get your treatment, rest up for a week, and then Ole Miss is going to come into Tiger Stadium, and it's going to be a hornet's nest. And we'll see if LSU can play with the Rebs a couple of weeks from now. 34-17, your final. LSU defeats UCLA. Tigers move to 3-1 on the season with South Alabama right around the corner in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, the Saints took it on the chin for the first time. Game could have gone really either way. Went the way of Philly. We'll talk about why coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about LeBear's Baton Rouge. You got to make it your game watch headquarters all football season long. Monday Night Football tonight. Get on by LeBear's. Go watch the game. Have some awesome drinks, fantastic food. And oh, by the way, download the Cover 5 app because you can compete against me. You might not want to compete against me now. Came back to the pack last week. This past week we just saw, I was lighting it up. 4 out of 5 on my Cover 5 picks. Got a bucket full of points, and we're feeling really good. We're in the top 20 in the Baton Rouge Pick'em. If you'd like to join the Baton Rouge Pick'em and try to catch up, you can do so. Download the Cover 5 app, download the Penn Play app, and when you're on Cover 5, enter the code LABRSEC24, LABRSEC24. You can pick each SEC game that week, up to 5 of them, and you can enter to win weekly and season-long prizes. If you're not a member, get the Penn Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
We're Rev Business, a local provider with nearly 90 years of experience. So when it comes to business in Louisiana, we know that personalized service is key. And we're here to go the extra mile with all fiber solutions that deliver what every business needs: reliability and quality. We're not just providers. We're the local team dedicated to helping you succeed. True partnerships are homegrown. Rev Business, internet, phone, managed services. Visit us at letsrev.biz.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Tough one in the Dome yesterday. Philadelphia 15, New Orleans 12. Saints fall to 2-1. Philadelphia moves to 2-1. This is another game I could really tell two different tales on. I could tell you the Saints should have won this game. Like, they had their opportunities at home, block a punt, got a chance to go ahead. They had their chances, and they didn't capitalize on them. I could also tell you the Saints should have gotten run out of their building yesterday, and that wouldn't be too far off either. But you did have a chance, and you weren't able to come through and get the win. Clearly a huge, huge deal. First drive, couple snaps into the game, and Eric McCoy goes down. And that is unequivocally your best offensive lineman. Like, Taliesin Fuaga is a great talent. He's looked very, very good at left tackle as a first-year player. But you look at the other guys on that line. Patrick, Penning, Ruiz, and McCoy is the linchpin there. He is clearly the best player. And so when you move Patrick and you bring in Udo and you've got a remade offensive line without the best piece of that, Philly exposed that a little bit. And what did we say last week about the main reason the Saints were having the success they were having offensively? Not Derek Carr. It's not Chris Olave. The main reason the Saints were having the success they were having is they were running the football at an elite level. They ran it for 180 in the opener against Carolina and 190 on Dallas. Well, they turned around in this game, and they tried. They handed the ball to Alvin Kamara 26 times. They tried to run the ball, but they did so at 3.1 yards per carry. Kamara finished with 26 carries for 87 yards. There was no running room available against that Philly defensive front, and when that happens, you got problems because I don't trust Derek Carr to go out there and win it. He's perfectly functional when you give him a good running game and a solid offensive line and you stay ahead of the chains and you ask him to make reasonable throws. He's good. You get him behind the chains, you take the running game away, you allow the Eagles to rush the passer, and at that point, he's in trouble, and he was. And that last pick he throws to ice it was kind of vintage Derek Carr. He looks a little gun-shy, a little hesitant, little happy feet, makes a bad throw too early, and it gets picked off. But I thought midway through the third quarter, the Saints were going to win that game. When they're down 3-0 and you block that punt, that's a situation where you have to take control of the game at that point. And the Saints were completely unable to do that. You get the block punt, you take the football, you got it at the 27-yard line, you run Kamara for 3, then you run Kamara for 6, Then you don't have Taysom Hill, so it's 3rd and 1 at the 18-yard line, and you direct snap it to Kamara, and he can't get there. So now you've got a decision to make. It's 3-0 game. You've got the ball at the 18-yard line. That's a 35-yard kick. Blake Grupe's going to make that, draw even. But NFL coaches have determined they're not interested in field goals. They want to go for it. The NFL has gone nuts on this, and we'll talk about last night's game as well, because I thought Atlanta lost the game because they were unwilling to kick short field goals. Well, in this instance, the Saints decided to go for it, and you try to run Kamara left tackle, and Philly blows it up, and he didn't even get close. Did not even get close. Bond was back there, and that was your spot at the end of the third quarter, first play of the fourth quarter, to draw even in the game, and you were unable to do it. And, of course, what happens immediately following that is 4 plays later, Saquon Barkley goes 65 yards, and you're in big trouble. So, bummer there for sure. I thought Dennis Allen could have taken points and didn't do it, and Philly made you pay for it. I'm not terrified. The Saints have lost all their mojo. I still think they're a good team. I still think Philly's a pretty good team, and you played them pretty well heads up in terms of the score. Sirianni gave you some help by not taking points early, and they forced one and threw an interception in the red zone. And, Philly did some things very poorly. I thought Nick Sirianni did a terrible job yesterday.
He was so bad.
He was awful.
Going for it at the end of the first half there was such a terrible decision.
Yeah, just bad all the way around. That situation there, they had gone on a 15-play drive. Yeah, I got my notes there. 78 yards, and had churned the ball all the way down to the 15 and decided to go for it, which was ridiculous. But the Saints made the play, and that's another example of NFL coaches who are just allergic to field goals for some reason. They've determined that 3 points is a failure, which is ridiculous. But I don't think the Saints are toast, and I don't think the league adjusted to the Saints, and now nothing good can come from it. I think you need your best offensive lineman back, which helps you at 2 places, because not only did you weaken yourself at center when McCoy went out, but you weakened yourself at guard when Patrick, who had been your second highest rated Pro Football Focus offensive lineman, he came out, and you put Udo in. Well, now you're weak at 2 different places, and you still got Penning over there at right tackle, which isn't exactly an all-pro. So that's just, we knew the offensive line was going to be a concern. It shouldn't be a total and complete shock that Philly punched him in the mouth with 2 reserves in there when you count Patrick as a reserve at center. That shouldn't be a shock. They do have to figure that out, though. They need to go in, and you didn't have time to plan for that. Like, you had to play an entire game without that in the plans. At least if he gets hurt on Tuesday at practice, you can start working on some things and take some things out of the game plan here or there. You're 3 plays in. They're like, all right, man, full new game plan because you don't have your best offensive lineman. Credit New Orleans and credit Clint Kubiak, and the score helped him do this because it stayed close. Credit him for staying committed to running the ball, even though it wasn't working. Because if you would have just abandoned that and left Carr back there, I think it would have gotten worse. They tried and tried and tried. It just never quite clicked, and they weren't able to put anything on the board.
Yeah, just a couple of things on the game. I think missing Taysom Hill is such a big, like we talked about before the game. It's just he does so many things, and he causes so many problems when he's on the field on offense. The defense has to account for him on every single play that he's on the field because you don't know if he's going to touch the ball, and I think that affected the run game a lot. But also, the Eagles, I think, showed other teams how you can maybe stop the Saints on offense, and that is they put 6 guys down, a lot of times 6 down the line, 6 or 7 guys in the box, and they dared the Saints to run and dared the Saints to throw, and a lot of times they ran the ball against these big boxes, and they couldn't stand up to it. So, like I agree with you though. I don't think that this just shows the Saints offense isn't actually that good. I still think they're going to have good games, but if teams do this and the Saints can't adjust, that was the biggest thing too. I would have hoped to see some adjustments on the offense in the second half. Just didn't really see that. But overall, I'm not too worried about it.
No, look, this was always going to happen. They were going to see some adjustments, and now the course of the season is how do you fix it? And they got to get healthy, but I think they'll be okay when they get Hill and McCoy back, assuming that's pretty quickly. Obviously, the big play of the game was Goddard with the long catch and run for 61 yards down inside the Saints 5 that set up the touchdown that won the game. And that's just great design on that crossing route. I thought it was great execution by Goddard and the other Eagle wide receiver, and they intentionally kind of ran at each other, and Saints two-car pile up, and there goes Goddard out the backside.
It was a good design, but also with the defense in the second half, Devontae Smith went down, and they had no receivers. Goddard was the only guy he was hurting you all game.
Yeah.
But he was the only guy to worry about. I was like, so to me, it's a question of, okay, why aren't we bracketing Dallas Goedert? If he's killing us the whole game, he's the only guy out there that can hurt you. They don't have any receivers. All that Devontae Smith's out, and Brown is not even playing. So that was a bit head scratching for me.
Yeah, and they had him in man, and it just they run that crosser and they ran into each other, and then nobody's going to be there to cover anybody at that point. I thought the Saints were resilient. I thought they played hard. I thought they played tough. I thought they were opportunistic. Obviously, you talk about the fourth down stops, and then Tyron's big pick that thwarted another opportunity for the Eagles to score some points. There's still some really good things, and I personally think that even though no A.J. Brown, even though no Devontae Smith in the second half, you held Philly to 15 points. It's not like you were a disaster on defense. So that's the pillar. That is the linchpin of this team. We can talk about the offense all we want and how awesome they've been for 2 weeks. Now they're scoring 40 a game and running the ball like crazy, and Carr's been as efficient as anybody in the league. But this team is going to be good, and it's going to be division championship good because the defense shows up every week.
Yeah, and
that
special
is the
teams.
identity of the team.
Yeah, special teams and defense. I mean, I said this.
JT Gray is a stud.
After the first game when the Saints scored all those points in the opener, I mentioned, I was like, this isn't going to continue, and we see it in this game. It didn't continue, but the defense and the special teams are always going to be there. You're always going to be able to trust them and know that they're going to play well, and that's going to keep the Saints in games. It kept them in this game. The Eagles had twice the amount of total yards the Saints had, and they still only lost by 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, so it was a weird game. I could I mean, if you're in Philly, if you're listening to Philly talk show radio today,
they're probably saying we
dominated the Saints, went on the road, just absolutely outgained them, and Sirianni's an idiot. It's probably what they're saying on Philly.
Which isn't too far off.
No, but if you're down here in New Orleans and you're analyzing from a Saints perspective, like, you're 2 plays away from winning that game. If you don't let Goddard get loose on that one, or if you punch in a touchdown after the blocked field goal, like 2 plays here or there, and it's a completely different ball game. But that's the story in the NFL, and you're going to play a lot of close games, and you need to win more than you don't. Saints have won 2 blowouts and then come up short in a close one against Philly. A lot of Philly fans in the Dome. That's New Orleans is a destination trip. The thought process by some of my friends that were there, they thought that maybe some Saints fans had sold their tickets to this game before the season when they didn't think the Saints were going to be very good. Maybe they could get some real money from Philly fans coming down. So I don't know, but there were a lot of Philly fans in the Dome for sure, and they were making their presence heard, and Philly gets out of there with a 15-12 win over the New Orleans Saints. So Saints will regroup, and they will pack it up, and they've got a road game coming up at Atlanta, who we saw last night. And just inexplicable stuff from Raheem Morris to not take field goals. But they lost. So Saints and Falcons both coming off a loss. They'll play at noon on Sunday on Fox. If you're looking for Saints coverage, you can always find it, Hunt on Saints on YouTube. Also, LouisianaSports.net. Ross Jackson, our Saints beat writer for LouisianaSports.net, has a piece up on the homepage right now talking about the Eagles and the defense and what they took away from the Saints. He's got a real good analysis of the Saints running game and why it wasn't very effective. So if you want to check that out, highly invite you to do so on LouisianaSports.net. I've also got a column up on LouisianaSports.net right now about tonight. I am so fired up for the Monday Night Football game tonight. I can't even tell you. So I'll try to tell you as we close out hour number 1 coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Always fired up to tell you about Evolve Physical Therapy. EvolvePT.com is the website. EvolvePT.com. If you're dealing with pain, whether it's wrist pain, knee pain, back pain, neck pain, whatever the case may be, and however you came into that pain, you slept wrong, injury from sports or activity, car accident, physical therapy and rehabilitation can get you back to being your active self, and that's what the folks at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports want to do. Robbie Bolton and his team are not going to hand you some Microsoft Word document with some stretches on it and say, hey, come see next week. No, they're going to be with you for the entirety of your session, making sure that you're making progress and you're getting close to being back to your active self. That's their goal at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Whether you're a 9-year-old youth athlete or a 65-year-old looking to get back out running, lifting weights, or playing golf, whatever the case may be, physical therapy is going to help you do it. And Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports can help you with it. They're on Starring near Highland Road, on Starring near Highland Road. It's evolvept.com. Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, evolvept.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
So oftentimes in my house, the television is on Blippi or Bluey or Peppa Pig.
What is Blippi? I've never heard of that.
Blippi there's been 2 Blippies. The first guy, I think a little bit before the pandemic, he decided he was going to be a kids show thing on YouTube. He wears suspenders and a bow tie, and he talks in a real high voice and goes to playgrounds and monster trucks, and he goes to a baseball.
Oh, so that's why that's where the monster trucks came from.
No, the monster trucks. I don't know. I don't know what the inception of that was, but then there were some ones where Blippi played with monster trucks. He was all about that. So what Myers will say is he'll come in and say, "I want to watch Blippi baseball." Or I want to watch Blippi monster truck. Or I want to watch Blippi Halloween.
He's telling you what episode he wants to watch.
He knows. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of Bluey. We're going to have to knock that out pretty early today because we're going to take that off the screen.
Yeah.
I got to lock into ESPN. I got to see the pregame show for Monday Night Countdown because you know that Monday Night Countdown and the first quarter of that game are going to be an infomercial for LSU. And this is not something we have ever experienced as people who follow LSU. The last time LSU had 2 starting quarterbacks play each other in the NFL regular season was Burt Jones and David Woodley. Those 2 guys it happened twice. The most recent time was September 27th, 1981. Woodley's Dolphins beat Jones's Colts 31-28. Shout out Todd Polietz for looking that up. But it has been since 1981 since LSU quarterbacks have faced off, and only once in the history of the NFL have Heisman winners from the same school faced off against each other in the National Football League. Beck, I will ask you as a trivia question, what was the only other time Heisman winners from the same school faced off in an NFL game at quarterback?
Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield did so a couple of years ago.
Was I way off there? Matt Leinart and Carson, were they ever crossed paths?
Didn't start a ton.
Yeah, he did.
And Palmer would have been towards the end there.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll have to go look that up. I saw the stat,
Yeah.
so I relayed it. I certainly didn't go look it up. But Polietz gave me the LSU one, which is really, really cool. This is awesome. This is so cool because we went a long time here in LSU world without any starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Certainly you had Matt Flynn, who was there for a few years but didn't start a ton of games. And Jamarcus was the first pick in the draft, and he flamed out really quickly. Mettenberger got his shot in Tennessee, but didn't last very long. And Etling and Rohan had their time that they made rosters, but you haven't seen LSU quarterbacks in the NFL. And now you've got, hopefully two guys that are going to be around for a very, very long time, playing at a very, very high level, and they gave us incredible memories over the course of their time in Baton Rouge. Both guys transferred in, won starting jobs, and became the best player in college football. And it was, for me, tonight's going to be so cool to watch those guys play, and one of them's going to be on the field for every play. I like watching the Bengals when they're on defense because I've kind of grown to support that team because Joe's playing quarterback for them, but I really just like to watch Joe play. And so I like to watch Joe play tonight, and then Joe's going to come off the field, and Jaden's going to be out there. And that's incredible. And I wrote this in my column for LouisianaSports.net, and I kind of dug deeper into just how the LSU brand has exploded over the last 5 years. And I've talked about this on the show a good bit, but I've never written the column for LouisianaSports.net, and it's up there right now. But I think that's so cool that LSU will be front and center like they were at the Major League Baseball All-Star game, like they were for a portion of the Olympics, like the women's basketball team has been and the baseball team has been, the Major League Baseball draft with Skeens and Cruz and all that. But this will be those two guys tonight. And while Bengals fans, diehard fans, are going to be in agony looking for a win because they're 0-2, and Commanders fans are so anxious for what the next chapter of their franchise could look like with no Dan Snyder and with new hope at quarterback, and they'll be locked into this game. We're going to sit back and just enjoy those two guys that gave us so many incredible memories play. And one of them will win and one of them will come up short tonight, but it's just, for me, it'll be about thinking about Joe playing at LSU while he's playing in this game, and thinking about Jaden running all over Florida and beating Alabama, and it's a feel good memory thing watching those two guys play. And I certainly will seek them out on Sundays. But Monday Night Football is the biggest draw in American television. Sunday Night Football and American and Monday Night Football, they're it outside of a Bachelor finale. Like that's all because it's live and it's sports. And now in the biggest window that we have weekly in American television, LSU is going to be front and center. And I just think that's a really, really cool thing. People ask me who I'm pulling for. I honestly think that Joe has more on the line here. He's got a team that we think is capable of competing for a Super Bowl, and we don't think Washington is at that level. So for Joe, it's important not to fall to 0-3. He's done this 0-2 thing before. I've talked about this a lot over the last 2 weeks, but now in 5 years as a quarterback at the Bengals, in weeks 1 and 2, Burrow and the Bengals are 1-9. They've started like this every year, and they eventually hit stride and take off, and you hope that's the case again this year. Probably needs to start tonight against one of the lesser teams in the NFC in Washington. But hey, if Jaden goes in there and wins a game in Cincinnati, like that's a feather in his cap. And I've been pulling for the Bengals for 5 years now, and I hadn't pulled for Washington but for 2 weeks. But if Jaden goes out there and balls on Monday Night Football, I'm gonna think that's all right.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. But my question is whoever wins this game, is that who you plant your flag with? Or are you just going to be fans of both teams?
No, both. They're in different conferences.
Okay.
I'll handle both.
Yeah.
And I realize it's hypocritical to only pull for the quarterbacks and not the left tackles and the pass rushers and the linebackers. It's just the way it is. The quarterbacks have the ball. They're the famous guys. And they won the Heisman.
Have you gotten any kind of Commander's gear yet?
I don't have any Commander's gear.
You gotta get
I won't rule that out.
You gotta get something.
By the time I got Bengals gear, actually my mom bought me a shirt, and then I got a different shirt, so I have two. But they were good already. Like, they were going to the Super Bowl. Washington's pretty crappy.
They're not good.
I'm probably gonna wait until we may have some playoff games before I break out the Commanders gear. Should I get a Washington football team shirt, or should I go?
No, you gotta go football team. It's the best, man. It's so funny that they were
vintage
called
stuff,
that.
collector's items.
It really is.
But it's gonna be really cool to see LSU featured very, very prominently, which we all think it will be tonight on Monday Night Football. So Bluey, Blippi, Peppa Pig, you're gonna have to go early before bath time. Once bath time hits, it's time to put the ESPN on and watch LSU be the toast of the NFL town for an evening. That's it for hour number one. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. Our Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. We'll be back after Sports Center talking SEC football on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. An MRI revealed Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold has no structural damage in his injured knee. He is expected to be fine Sunday against the Packers. Along with Minnesota, the Chiefs, one of the NFL's 4 3-0 teams. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes, though not pleased with how he's played the first few games of the season, which has included 4 interceptions. He spoke last night of getting back to his fundamentals, putting teammates in the right position, and executing at a higher level offensively. Pro Football Hall of Famer and First Take co-host Shannon Sharp.
This is how you get better. This is how you're not fooled by a record, because fans just look at the record. Whether you know we go in there and we evaluate everything. You're constantly striving, trying to get better. This is why the Chiefs will always be a problem. This is why Patrick Mahomes is who Patrick Mahomes is.
Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers' oblique strain remains questionable against Mississippi State Saturday. Arch Manning starts again if Ewers is out. Georgia hopeful that star defensive end Michael Williams can return from an ankle injury Saturday at Alabama. He hasn't played since getting hurt in the season opener.
Why pay more for a great shave? Choose Barbasol, America's #1 brand of shaving cream. Barbasol's thick and rich lather gives you a close, comfortable shave for just half the price of gels. Barbasol.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Thanks for hanging out with us to start your work week. We're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs is Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All right, Beck. Went over my SEC picks against the spread.
Yeah.
A winning week.
It was, actually.
5-4.
In fact, it would have been a winning week if it weren't for me telling you, because you had it as 4-5.
Yeah, I miscounted.
When in fact you were 5-4.
Did not realize that Bowling Green did cover. I had that
they were very competitive in that game against the Aggies.
It was a 22.5-point number, and they were right there with A&M within a score late. They didn't have a chance. They only lost by 6. A&M finished the game with the football. So we'll dismiss the gambling aspect of it and just talk some storylines in the SEC. I thought the biggest statement of the weekend was very clearly Tennessee going to Norman and winning that game. 10 was the final number. It felt a lot worse than that. Oklahoma goes to the backup quarterback. They bench Jackson Arnold, and it didn't really matter because Tennessee just kept their thumb on them the entire game. I thought Tennessee would win the game 40-20. Tennessee won the game 25-15. Once again, flexing their muscles on the defensive side of the football and really showing that they want to win kind of by running the ball and playing defense, which is not what you think about when you think of Josh Heupel. But they ran the ball 52 times in this game and completely controlled the flow of the game, the rhythm of the game, and their defense kind of put the clamps on. They controlled the ball for 35 minutes, gave it to Oklahoma for only 25 minutes in the game, and I think they're a national championship contender. They're not my favorite to win the national championship, but I think they can win the whole thing. Yeah,
I think Oklahoma, a lot of people had question marks about Oklahoma just because they hadn't really faced any competition yet until they played Tulane, and that game was not very close, but Tennessee, man, that's always been the question is if Josh Heupel can get his defense to play at a really high level, and they played at a really high level in Norman, Oklahoma, and looked very dominant.
The other interesting game for me was Arkansas and Auburn. Wasn't really sure how it was going to play out. I liked the Hogs getting points. and they ended up winning the game by 10. But it's pretty surprising to me that Hugh Freeze's offense is a complete grease fire in year 2. Like, I think of him as a really good coach. I think of him as a really good play caller. I don't want any part of him. I don't really trust him as a person. But I think he's a good coach. And for them to be this discombobulated offensively 2 years in is really surprising. And you could suggest that they're close to getting it figured out because it's turnovers. Like, if you just can't run the ball, if you just can't complete passes, they're just turning the ball over.
Yeah, they ran the ball really well.
And you once again, for the second time in 3 weeks, throw 4 interceptions in a single game.
You can't win even if you throw 2 picks in a game. That's going to make it very hard to win.
And they're throwing 4 multiple times, and it's not like they're playing Georgia. Like, this is Arkansas we're talking about here.
By the way, Taylon Green not really that good in this game.
I thought maybe I had screwed up because I don't care what they did against Pine Bluff. But they go to Stillwater, and they were moving the ball right up and down the field. I was like, Petrino's kind of got it figured out. And then 2 weeks in a row, Taylon Green's looked really, really bad in terms of completion percentage. He threw 2 more picks in this game and was only 12 out of 27. But Auburn was worse. And it all kind of boils down here to this with Auburn. Like, maybe Hugh Freeze is still a good coach. Maybe he is still a really good play caller. Maybe he's still a really good recruiter. Maybe all those things are true. And maybe he just doesn't have a quarterback on this team. And if you don't have a quarterback, you have no chance. That's why I'm still keeping some sense of optimism about LSU's chances moving forward, because right now, while he's healthy, every time they go out there, Nussmeier's got a chance to go throw 4 touchdowns. He just does. He's really good. Auburn has nothing. They had nothing last year. They have nothing this year. And it's just an impossible way to make a living if you can't throw the football. And right now they can't. They ran it okay, as you mentioned, but they still lose by 10 to Arkansas. Coach Pittman going to save his job?
I don't think so, but probably not.
All right. What happened in Columbia, Missouri, Beck?
Well, it's that was a tough one. That was hard to watch. I will say, obviously Missouri's kicker missed 3 field goals, so that certainly helped the doors out. But man, they played their hearts out in Como over there. Man, that was
top 10 team.
That's the top 10 team, and they puffed out their chest and said, we're gonna play y'all straight up. And Vanderbilt, they ran the ball really well in that game, and the offense was pretty solid. But at the end of the day, it's when it comes down to college kickers, you got to hold your breath every single time. And Missouri found that out by missing 3 in regulation.
Yes.
And then of course Vanderbilt misses the one in overtime. So
that one in overtime, I can relate to it so much on a golf swing perspective. I mean, he just pull hooked it.
Yep.
I mean, it started left and it went left.
Yep.
And I've got that shot with every club in my golf bag. I got it with a pitching wedge. I got it with a driver. I know how that goes. And so that was brutal. Back to Vandy here. Like, my point stands from the first, and we'll know as LSU fans about this as the season goes on, because LSU plays Vanderbilt second to last week of the season. I don't think Diego Pavia can keep doing this and stay healthy. He carried 17 more times in this game against Missouri. He carried it a bajillion times against Virginia Tech. He's a little guy. He's running all over the place, and it's really exciting, and he's really fun, and he's made Vanderbilt interesting, and that's great. But I just don't think you can run in the SEC 15, 20 times a game at that size and make it.
No.
Tebow wants to do it. All right. And Tim got hurt a couple times in his 4 years. Cam wants to do it. All right, that's fine. KJ Jefferson wants to do it. Probably going to be okay. Pavia, I have my doubts.
Yeah,
so.
I've got a really bad feeling about their next game is going to be Alabama at home, and Bama is either going to be coming off. The only thing is if Bama comes off a big win against Georgia, maybe it's a letdown spot. But Vanderbilt is not going to be able to impose any kind of running game, especially with Pavia against Alabama. That's going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah, I don't think they should probably show up for that one. Speaking of not showing up, Mississippi State could probably just pack it in at this point.
I think so.
They are abysmal, and their starting quarterback's out for the year now. Hat tip to Billy Napier for this 2-quarterback thing. He's still going to get fired, but he decided to play 2 quarterbacks, which everyone made fun of. And then you look up, and the 2 quarterbacks went 26 of 28 for 277, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Lagway was a perfect 7 of 7. Lagway ran it 3 times for 22 yards. Graham Mertz did most of the throwing, 19 of 21, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns. Very nice and efficient use of 2 quarterbacks in a time where people think that's a really poor way to go about things. Mississippi State just has no chance. Absolutely no chance. And we talked about this last week, and quite honestly, we'll probably talk about it again next week because it's so amazing to look at. When you look at this Mississippi State team, which could be historically bad by Mississippi State standards, and that's saying something, they, to this point, are 1-3. They got blown out by a MAC team and then blown out at home by maybe the second worst team in the SEC. Well, what's coming up on their schedule, you might ask? At number 1 Texas, at number 2 Georgia.
How do you do that?
At number 5 Tennessee, at number 6 Ole Miss. They still have 4 true road games against the current top 6 in the country.
How do you go to Texas and to Georgia? That is just unbelievable. I don't care who you are. That is just impossible.
And now you will do it without Blake Shapen, your quarterback, who had been mediocre. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over in this game. But now you go to Michael Van Buren, Van B-Boys, shout out Seinfeld. This is the numbers in the 30s against Texas. It's 38, I think.
If Texas doesn't score 50, I'll be surprised.
And Mississippi State just has
no
guys.
They can't stop anybody.
Just has no guys. Florida struggled mightily on offense against everybody. They went up and down the field for 45 points no matter who their quarterback was back there.
Yep.
It was just wind sprints up and down the field. It is big, big trouble for Mississippi State. I didn't think the rest of the league was chock with a bunch of storylines. Ole Miss and Texas absolutely rolled. A&M scuffled against a Bowling Green team. I really liked that. It's funny that I marked that incorrectly because on Friday I really liked that. I liked the spot for Bowling Green with A&M coming off that big win. I like the fact that they've got a veteran quarterback who wasn't going to be scared, and Bazelak played okay in the game. He was 20 of 36 for 250 yards. A&M's passing game was a lot around the line of scrimmage, and then they ran the ball really, really well, and they ran it a lot. They ran it 43 times for 235 yards, and that kind of shortened the game. And Bowling Green tried to get home, but couldn't quite get there against Bowling Green. I wanted to mention SEC Players of the Week. Garrett Nussmeier, Offensive Player of the Week. He's with the Missouri running back who ran for 200 yards. And then Braden Swinson was SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. That's his second straight week garnering honors from the Southeastern Conference. So that's a look at your SEC scoreboard in week 4. All right, we still got about 15 minutes until we talk to Denton Day. We're going to talk to Denton. One, he's a big Washington Commanders fan, so we'll talk to him about the game tonight with Jaden and Joe going head-to-head, and then we'll get thoughts on the rest of the country in college football. We'll do that when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I keep misplacing my live sheet, which is a big, big issue. It's right here.
It's One Bath.
It is One Bath. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety is a big deal in the bathroom. It can be a hazardous spot, especially as folks age. If there's someone in your life that's aging that wants to stay home but may need some help around the bathroom, how about non-slip floors? How about putting guardrails in some hazardous areas? How about walk-in tubs? How about benches in the shower? All these could be truly beneficial to an aging loved one because the bathroom can be such a hazardous spot. So One Bath and Closet can do this kind of stuff. They do it all the time. The process starts with a free consultation. David and his team come out, talk about what you want to do. They'll get you that quote. There are financing options available, and I can promise you this, once they get to work, they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. In the first conversation I ever had with David, he talked about the fact that there are some contractors that are just trying to get to the next job. So they may cut a corner here or there to get that check to get to the next job. Never is that going to be the case with One Bath and Closets. They're going to make sure it is done right the first time, and they will leave the competition behind. If you're looking for some help in the bathroom, try to make things a little bit less hazardous, a little bit more safe, One Bath and Closets can help you out with that. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. Get that free consultation, onebathandclosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Denton Day will join us coming up here in 15 minutes. Always with us on Mondays. He hosts college football overtime on Sirius XM. Always enjoy those conversations. But let's talk a little more LSU football. We have the numbers from LouisianaSports.net, what articles that we write that people click on more often, which ones have not worked out as well. And we do know that one of the ones that y'all always seem to consume is the Pro Football Focus grades that I put up on Sunday for LSU. I always take the top 5 and the bottom 5 from the action. And we understand that no one's trying to tell you that Pro Football Focus is perfect and it's the standard, and it's information. They watch the film, they put grades on it, and we react to it. It's not meant to disparage anyone or enhance anyone's Heisman opportunities. We just think it's a good talking point, and so we always put them up there. And so I did this yesterday, and I thought that the grades were very indicative of where LSU sits, both from an identity standpoint, offensively and defensively, and then what the issues are, especially defensively. And so the highest graded player for LSU on Saturday was Braden Swinson. That should come as no surprise. He had 2 more sacks. He forced a fumble. He had another hurry. He forced that interception. The holding penalty that got the interception. He was fantastic. He graded out an 87.9. And then the second highest ranked player, right there, just 0.5 behind Swinson, was Garrett Nussmeier, who graded out at 87.4. I thought he was exceptional in the game. 32 out of 44, 352 yards and 2 touchdowns. Incredible throw to Kyle Parker down the right sideline for a touchdown. He is taking care of the ball. He's making big plays. He's been fantastic through a month as LSU starting quarterback, and the grade reflected that on Saturday. Will Campbell bounced back from a tough outing against South Carolina and was awesome in the game on Saturday. He was an 84.1 is how he graded out, and his pass protection was a 90, which is an exceptionally high grade for Will Campbell. So dominant effort from LSU's left tackle. Aaron Anderson comes in at a 75.1, which I thought was really good for him. And then Savion Jones was the 5th highest ranked player for LSU. He comes in at 73.7. And that right there, those top 5 players, give you an indication of what LSU is really good at. The 2 edge rushers, Swinson and Jones, can really rush the passer. Nussmeier's fantastic under center. And then you've got Will Campbell protecting his blind side, and Aaron Anderson, one of the wide receivers who's been really good out there. That is LSU's identity as a team right now. I talked about it at the top of the show, and I would reiterate it here. Like, the grades reflect what my eyes were telling me, what the statistics say. All of that suggests LSU's really good at throwing the ball. They're really good at rushing the passer. There are issues all over the place elsewhere, but those 2 things LSU has been really good at. As far as the bottom grades go, some of this I thought was pertinent. Some of this I thought I didn't really care at all. Kyron Lacey was the lowest graded player on the team of those that played 20 snaps. He was a 55. I know he had one big drop over the middle, but I thought he was – I have no concerns with Kyron Lacey. I think he's a really good receiver. I think he's a number 1 wide receiver, and I think he's going to continue to make huge plays for LSU. The fact that he graded a 55 on Saturday, I'm not too concerned with it. The next 2 guys that got lower grades were LSU offensive linemen. Miles Frazier at 56.2 and Emory Jones at 56.5. Both of them had run blocking grades under 54, and that doesn't come as a shock. LSU hasn't been great trying to run the football, but they have gotten a little bit better over the last couple of days. I'm not overly concerned with those 3 guys. Here's where you start to really raise my concern level here with the lowest ranked players after those 3 guys. You have J.K. Johnson at 57.2. He's a nickel or a DB. You've got Jordan Gilbert, who's coming in at 58.4, safety. Major Burns, 58.5, safety. Deshaun Spears, 59.2, safety. Sage Ryan, 60.7, safety. Of the bottom 8 guys, 5 of them can play safety. And you heard Brian Kelly say 2 weeks ago, we have got to get better production from our safety play. He said that on the record in a press conference. We have to get better play from our safeties. And right now, you're just not. And you're seeing missed tackles. You're seeing poor coverage. You're seeing chunk plays. Like, Jordan Gilbert's tackling grade was 22.3. That is minuscule. Major Burns, 59.3 in tackling, 56.9 in coverage. Deshaun Spears, the freshman, a 42.4 in tackling, 54.6 in coverage. I realize numbers don't play great, but you understand there are real issues for the safety room. And if your safeties are missing tackles, that is big play city. Now, LSU did not allow huge plays on the ground in this game, but they did allow UCLA to throw the ball a lot in the first half. And I feel like that LSU has got to find some sort of rotation at safety that gives them better play. It's not like they're just sticking with 2 guys and those are the guys. They're giving a lot of different guys some run, but none of it's been super effective. Jordan Allen did have a solid grade this week at 78.1. But the rest of the group with Johnson and Gilbert and Burns and Spears and Ryan, it's just not quite good enough. And yeah, as I look at that group, I see some young players with some talent. I see some guys that have played a lot of SEC football. There's a blend there of youth and experience and talent, but the production is not good enough. And we'll see what's up with Zy Alexander. Had a head injury. Brian Kelly said very much questionable at this point, but without an SEC game this week, they're not beholden to any reports at this point in the week. But they've clearly got issues at safety. I'm not concerned with Kyron Lacey's grade. I'm not concerned that much with Miles Frazier, Emory Jones' grade. The rest of the guys, that makes a lot of sense. And it goes back to my thought, like, you've got your identity. Your identity is you throw it really well, you rush the passer. There are issues elsewhere. And running and safety play, defensive back play, kind of as a whole, very much fit into those narratives. So to me, like, I would continue to throw Jordan Gilbert, Jordan Allen, and Deshaun Spears out there. I think those are the guys that need to get the most reps, and you hope that Deshaun Spears takes steps week over week. It's still early. Like, you don't play another big football game for 2 more weeks. You don't play Alabama and Oklahoma for another 7 weeks in Oklahoma's case. Like, so you've got time to get guys out there, to continue to develop them, and hope that comes along. But this place prides itself on DBU, And the grades don't necessarily reflect that because you've had some significant issues in the back end of the defense, and it's not like this is being pulled out of thin air. Brian Kelly told you that straight up 2 weeks ago. So it was better from a big play perspective. I don't know if it was better from an execution perspective in the passing game with LSU's DBs. But if you want to read my full piece on all of those, you can go to LouisianaSports.net. If you're looking for LSU football content, you can always find it on YouTube. Hunt on LSU is our LSU YouTube channel. All football all the time. It's recruiting and football, never any baseball, never any basketball. All football all the time. Hunt on LSU. So if you're looking for your LSU football scoop, head over there and subscribe up to the channel. If you're looking for the same for the Saints, Hunt on Saints is your Saints YouTube channel. Subscribe up to it and go right to your homepage each and every day. So we appreciate Team Spazzali for getting all those up each and every day. We appreciate you for subscribing and taking in our content when you do. All right, when we come back, Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime, talking college football on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. Another storm down there. Helene is in the Caribbean. Looks like that one's headed towards the Florida Panhandle. Certainly hope everybody is okay over there once that does roll through. But you know, at this part of the world on the Gulf Coast, hurricanes are inevitable. You need to be prepared beforehand. You need to be covered for when those roll through. We just had one, obviously, a couple of weeks ago. If you don't have the right coverage, it can set you back pretty good, especially from a business perspective. And if you're a business owner, you don't want to be thinking about insurance all the time. You got to bring somebody in that you trust and let them handle it. That's what the Highland Insurance Group and Jonathan Carbo and his team can do. Think of them as a consultant. Think of them as part of your team. Think of them as mitigating massive risk. That's what they can do for you at the Highland Insurance Group. Whether it's a hurricane, car accident, cyber breach, whatever the case may be, make sure that you're covered and make sure that you're at the proper market that can handle your needs. Highland Insurance Group is an independent brokerage. They can help you out with all of it on the property and casualty side, and they can help you out on the employee and group benefits side as well. It's a one-stop shop. They're right here in Baton Rouge. Give them a look. HighlandIG.com is the website. It's Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink are a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Good weekend in college football. We always recap with our guy Denton Day, Sirius XM's college football overtime at 2:30 on Mondays. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Denton, how we doing?
Hunt, what's going on, man? Another great week of action. We finally got some good ranked-on-ranked matchups. How about that?
We did get some ranked-on-ranked matchups, and I want to talk a little NFL with you later on because we're fired up down here for tonight's game, as you might imagine. But let's start with college. I was interested in the matchup in the Big House, being that LSU played USC. What'd you make of that one? Heck of an effort by Michigan.
I'm stunned with the results of this one. And it's not because Michigan won. It's because Michigan won without having the ability to throw. Literally, they could not throw a forward pass. It was amazing to watch. Their run game and their defense is so good. It really begs the question of if they just had a bad quarterback. Because what they have now is atrocious. It's so far down the list of good and bad that you're creating another category for it. If they just had a bad quarterback, they'd be a national championship contender because they're so good everywhere else. This game really told me a lot about USC because I was under the belief that after that week one game against LSU that there was something really different about this team in terms of tackling, in terms of physicality, and making that transition from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten would be significantly easier. And all that goodwill that they had built up has now basically been stripped away because we saw this weekend while they can hang with good teams, they couldn't beat a team that literally couldn't throw. You knew what they were going to do for the entirety of the game and hand the ball off, and you couldn't do anything about it. So I learned a lot more negative about USC than I ended up learning positive about Michigan. Although, again, they cannot throw the football. It's astounding.
I mean, 7 of 12 for Orji, 32 yards passing for the game. Michigan ran it 46 times for 290 yards. Does that say anything about LSU that USC wasn't able to win that game?
A little bit. We know the struggles that LSU's had on defense, and they've gotten a little better in certain elements this year, but they're still not that much better. Although I will say, what does that say about somebody who's the offensive coordinator at UCLA? They can only put up 17 points. That's for another question, though. But I think LSU's defense is still a massive Achilles heel, and the biggest difference that I see in watching them is, while I love Nussmeier, I think he does a really good job, and he's made some real big-time throws. Not having a guy that can make plays with his legs in a pinch is kind of hurting them offensively a little bit. I think they'll be able to manage with some of the lower level SEC teams, but when you get to some of those big dogs on the schedule, you're going to need your defense either to make plays or you're going to have to score every single time you touch the ball, similar to what was necessary last year.
Yep, pretty much had to do that against South Carolina as well. Let's keep running around the top 25 matchups. Utah goes to Stillwater in a close one. They win 22-19. Are they your Big 12 favorites?
God, what a snooze fest this one was.
Yeah.
This was my favorite game of the weekend on Friday night, and then by the time it kicked off on Saturday, it was just no Cam Rising, who feels like an urban legend in college football at this point, the way that we never see him play but talk about him all the time. I was so bummed with how this one turned out, and it looked close on the scoreboard, but it really never was. Utah with mini Zach Wilson was in complete control, despite the fact that Zach Wilson's younger brother he's really not all that spectacular. He can make some plays, but he has a tendency to turn the ball over, which is natural for a young quarterback. I was so bummed with this one. I was really, really upset with the way that Oklahoma State played because I thought they were going to win the Big 12, and now the way they played at home against Utah. If we do at some point, maybe fingers and toes crossed, get Cam Rising back playing football this year, it feels like Utah is miles ahead of everybody else in that conference.
If you stay in the Big 12 briefly, did that feel like maybe a nail in Dave Aranda's coffin at Baylor, not being able to close that game out against Colorado? They get beat by Hail Mary.
Yeah, that really did, which is unfortunate because he was so good on that 19 team. I thought he earned the opportunity that he got at Baylor, and then you have that first season where it's just lights out, and you're like, wait a second, like, we might have really gotten something here. And then the way that it's been since then has been really, really puzzling. I don't think that's exclusively his fault. I think Baylor is in a very similar position with a lot of teams in college football right now. I think the biggest one in that position is Florida with institutionally, they have a lot of issues going on, and he's just kind of the face of it at the moment. But I think the way that they lost and considering who they lost to, not a great sign for Aranda moving forward, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, we're all pulling for him down here in South Louisiana. He's got a lot of fans for his work in purple and gold. All right, Tennessee, Oklahoma. Vols just smothered Oklahoma. They had to change quarterbacks, a 10-point win, but it never felt that close. What'd you learn about Tennessee and Oklahoma on Saturday?
This was, to me, the second best win of the season so far for everybody. I think the Texas going to Michigan and beating them the way that they did is, as of right now, the best win in college football. This, to me, was second because Oklahoma, in a very similar position to Michigan, defensively, damn, they're good. They are fast. They are physical. They fly to the football. I mean, they are a great defensive team. If they had one of these kind of defenses in the Lincoln Riley years when they had all these great quarterbacks, they would be multi-time champions. The problem is they exchanged the good quarterbacks for a really good defense, and now they don't have a good quarterback. So I think we learned a lot about Tennessee in the way that they can win games that are uglier, so to speak. I think Tennessee is actually a really good team, though. I think even with Nico I not being a guy that I fully and wholeheartedly trust at the moment, I think he's making progress in the right direction to when you get to the big games on the schedule. This was a big one. I mean, Norman showed out. We don't think about Norman as like one of the dominant college fan bases, so to speak, or like the toughest places to play. That place was jumping on Saturday, which was awesome to see, especially as they transition to the SEC. But I think Tennessee looked really, really strong. And if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm feeling really good about my team moving forward as you get to the hard SEC play.
You mentioned Oklahoma not having a great quarterback. They had a pretty good quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, and by all accounts, they kind of told him to hit the road. Like, was that a mistake?
Yeah, big mistake. Can you imagine if they had Dylan Gabriel, who is a good quarterback in college football, right? Not great, but he's a good quarterback. They'd be a favorite in the SEC, or at least in the conversation, rather. I guess Georgia's still going to be the favorite, but they'd be much deeper into the conversation of great teams in that conference. And, I understand the direction they want to go. Like, hey, we got this 5-star. We're really going to try and build, through recruiting to build our program moving forward here. Like, we don't need you anymore. But you should have had an idea of what Jackson Arnold was at that point. If you're going to move on from Dylan Gabriel, you better be sure that the guy that you have behind him is really, really good. And I don't know if they just missed or they put too much hope in that process, but it is not looking well for them now if you're benching your guy at home against Tennessee.
What do you make of Missouri? They got by Boston College by a score at home. They had to go to overtime with Vanderbilt and double overtime and win that game. They're winning the games. They're in the top 10, but it's not like they're playing world beaters and they're just getting by. What do you make of that?
Oh, God, it's going to suck for them when they get Bama and Oklahoma in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to get beat up a little bit. I love Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. He is an agent of chaos. Like, Vanderbilt has no reason to be in that game outside of the fact that he's just kind of a madman in the most positive way of saying it. But Mizzou just doesn't seem to execute on offense the way that they did last year. And maybe that's not having Cody Schrader, but they still ran for nearly 200 or over 200 yards. They still had one guy run for nearly 200 yards against Vanderbilt, yet their offense still seems to be, it's just missing something. So I don't, I like a lot of the pieces they have. Luther Burden III is a joy to watch, but when they start playing really good teams, like if you're struggling like this against Vanderbilt and Boston College, things are not going to go well when you get to Alabama and Oklahoma and maybe even next week or 2 weeks from now against Texas A&M.
Who's the best team in the country by your estimation?
I would still say right now it's Texas, although I'd like Quinn Ewers to get healthy. Arch Manning is fun, but this is Quinn Ewers' team. I just wish we could see Ohio State play somebody that's good. Marshall, the coach was funny with the biscuits thing last week. Hey, come enjoy our biscuits. I don't know if wherever Marshall is in West Virginia is known for their biscuits. I'm not familiar with that area, but until we see Ohio State play somebody that's in their weight class, I don't know if we can properly judge them.
All right, let's briefly move ahead to next week's game. Obviously, the big one is going to be Alabama hosting Georgia. What do you make of that?
This one's going to be fun. Hot damn, did ESPN do a good job promoting this one during the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. It felt like every commercial break they came back from, hey, by the way, Bama, Georgia next week. Hey, by the way, Bama, Georgia next week. Hey, we got a sponsorship. By the way, Bama, Georgia next week. So they're making sure that we're going to be glued to the television. I don't think they needed to go that hard, but they did. I kind of like Alabama, at least for now. You know, the favorite, Georgia is a small favorite on the gambling line. Jalen Milroe seems to really step up in big games. You know, I haven't been thrilled with some of the things that I've seen from him this year, but he has this tendency that not everybody does in college football, that when the lights are the brightest, he plays really, really well. I'm curious to see how that gambling line is going to move as we get closer to Saturday, but as of right now, my early lead is Bama taking down Georgia.
Interesting. It's going to be an incredible environment there in Tuscaloosa. All right, let's talk about tonight. We've talked about it a bunch earlier on the show today. Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels headed to Cincinnati to face Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I know you're a big Washington guy, big Jaden Daniels guy these days. Do they have what it takes to go into Cincinnati and win?
This is such a tough game for me because my current favorite quarterback in Joe Burrow, taking on the guy that is hopefully going to be my favorite quarterback, assuming that he actually stays here longer than most other quarterbacks have stayed here. I think they do have what it takes. Defensively, Washington is in a lot of trouble, so yeah, Joe Burrow could light them up defensively. Their best defense is going to be on offense, and Jaden keeping the guys on the field. They had a lot of success last week running the football with Brian Robinson, who played at Alabama in the SEC, and with the acquisition of Austin Eckler. I'm hoping that Washington ends up running the ball in the neighborhood of like 40 to 50 times, and I hope that Jaden gets at least his first, second, hell, I'll take third passing touchdown of the year. I'm expecting a big game from him. He, kind of similar to what I said about Jalen Milroe, but to a much greater extent, he plays really well when the lights are on. You guys know that down there. I'm trying to tell everybody up here that doesn't watch college football that, hey, like when this guy is in prime time, magic happens. So I'm excited for tonight.
Should be good. Malik Neighbors went off yesterday in the game for the Giants, so hopefully Jaden can follow that up with a big one tonight. We'll be all be watching down here in South Louisiana. We appreciate some time, Denton. Have a great week, and we'll do it again next week.
I appreciate it as always, man. Be well.
He's Denton Day. College football overtime on Sirius XM Saturday night after they all go final. He has got you covered. Also, big Washington Commanders guy, lives there in the nation's capital, and he's hoping Jaden Daniels leads them into a new era here, some quality football. We'll see how that goes tonight. As I mentioned multiple times now on the show, I'm fired up to watch that one later on this evening. All right, we'll come back and close it out. It's a Monday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. They are a certified Generac generator dealer, a premier Generac generator dealer. Here's how that process is going to work if you're going to get that Generac generator installed at your home or your business. You give them a call. They come out and they assess the situation. How much square footage you got? What do you need powered in the event that the power does go out? Some people want everything running. Some people just want to make sure this and that are still running. I want the fridge rolling. I need the AC going. This TV needs to work. And maybe there's a different generator that you need for that type of situation. But once you make that decision, you're going to have a full-time Boudreaux's Electrical employee come out and do that installation. Not somebody they 1099 in to come in and get it done. No, it's a full-time Boudreaux's Electrical employee. They're going to do most of that installation underground so that it looks very nice, and it's going to be very, very functional. Then they're going to be able to monitor that generator remotely at Boudreaux's Electrical in case something malfunctions, whether it's just wear and tear that happens over the course of time, or if you got kids out there playing tackle football and somebody throws a football or kicks a soccer ball off of it and knocks something around and it's now not functional. Well, they'll know that because they monitor it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll call you and say, hey, something happened to the generator. Let's come out and fix it, so that they can do that. And when you need it, it comes on to power your home or your business. You can find them at 985-397-1562. Again, that's 985-397-1562, or in the 225 area code, new number at the Gonzales spot, 225-300-9389, or just do what I always tell you to do, and go to boudreauxelectrical.com and request that consultation. It's Boudreaux's Electrical Services, boudreauxelectrical.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Congratulations to Jamari Tillman from Baton Rouge. Jamari is the Week 4 winner in our 2024 College Football Pick'em Contest and wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Don't forget to make your picks for Round 5 by this Thursday at noon. Weekly winners will receive a Hooters wing party for 10, and the first place season-long champion will get a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV and soundbar, plus free Hooters wings for an entire year. It's the 2024 College Football Pick'em presented by Hooters.
All right, business owners, business managers, office managers, Gulf Coast Office Products needs to be your one-stop shop for all your printing, copying, and scanning. If you've never given a ton of thought to why you have the printer, scanner, copier that you have, maybe you should, or let Trey Beal and his team give it a look. No matter what industry you're in, Trey Beal and his team at Gulf Coast Office Products have clients in that industry. Attorneys, healthcare, banking, media companies like us, education, no matter what. They've got you covered, and they know what the needs are for each individual business. They've got incredible staff, incredible resources throughout the state of Louisiana. No matter where you are listening to us, they can be your one-stop shop for all your printing, copying, and scanning. Baton Rouge Business Report named #1 office products distributor. It's Gulf Coast Office Products. You can check them out online, gcopnet.com. gcopnet.com is that website. Appreciate Trey Beal and the whole crew there at Gulf Coast Office Products for making our Monday shows possible for you. News of the day, obviously, Brian Kelly confirmed that Harold Perkins will miss the remainder of the season with an ACL injury that broke yesterday. Matt Zennis of CBS had it, and Brian Kelly confirmed that today. He talked about how they're going to navigate that in those 3 linebacker packages. You'll see both Weeks brothers as well as Greg Penn. They can also go to the star where Kylan Jackson and and Major Burns have been playing. Of course, in camp, when Major Burns came off the field in the Star, Juwan Johnson was the guy stepping in, but Juwan Johnson is now on the offensive side of the ball, so that's not going to be an option at this point. So LSU will have to do some shuffling. If you want to go back and listen to the top of the show, I talked about how LSU can move on without Harold Perkins, so you can go catch that on demand. But before we close up, we'll take it or leave it here, Beck.
All right, first one here. North Carolina gave up 70 to James Madison. Mac Brown needs to hang it up. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it, definitely.
I'll take it.
Just hang it. I don't. These guys gotta retire. Gotta go enjoy the rest of your life. North Carolina. Look, you lose the game to James Madison 70-50, and quite frankly, like if you can't shoot from the three and you can't knock down jump shots, it's tough to win games.
Yep. Next one. Oh,
Look, the box score was hilarious on that North Carolina because if you would have told a North Carolina fan entering the game against James Madison, hey man, y'all are going to go for 620 yards of offense and score 50 points, they'd probably run to the nearest sports app and make sure they get the bet down. And instead they gave up 70 and lost. That's really not good.
Yeah, well, and the funniest part too is the previous week James Madison I think scored like 13 or 17 points against Gardner Webb, I think.
Oh, well, so Gardner Webb's tough.
Yeah, apparently. Next one here, we talked about a little bit last week, but Gonzaga is going to be leaving the West Coast Conference to join the Pac-12. They'll get a full revenue share, even though they obviously do not field a football team. Brad McMurphy is reporting it, so pretty trustable source. Okay. So take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll leave it. If Gonzaga was going to play basketball against UCLA and they were going to play basketball against Stanford and Washington and Oregon, like that would be interesting. Gonzaga playing basketball against San Diego State is not interesting. I know San Diego State was in the national final a couple years ago, but like it's not. And so this whole deal that they're hanging on to, that the name of the league is the Pac-12, so that makes it more relevant, doesn't work. And salute to Tulane and to Memphis and some of those schools that have pulled their name out of this search, and they're going to stick with the American and stick with the teams they've got that works geographically, so they're not flying all over the nation playing these insignificant games against programs that don't garner a lot of television eyeballs. Like it just doesn't work for me, and it looks to me like conferences are falling apart, not being built. That's what it looks like to me, and I'll need to see the end result. But Gonzaga just playing basketball against Boise State, sorry, that's not going to move my needle.
Yeah, I get it from Gonzaga's perspective because anything from the West Coast, moving up from the West Coast Conference is going to be better for the most part. I mean, St. Mary's is always pretty good, but it's basically Gonzaga. Two teams in that conference are actually good. The other ones are all
Pepperdine and Pacific.
And not very good. So I understand why Gonzaga's doing, but at the same time, it just doesn't. It doesn't really make too much sense to me why the Pac-12 is trying to reorganize when they're clearly not going to be considered a top Power 4 conference or Power 5 conference.
It's like job security. Like if you're the commissioner of the Pac-12 or you work for the Pac-12 and it ceases to exist, like you don't have a job anymore.
It's true.
It doesn't make a lot of... This is not going to change Gonzaga's profile. Gonzaga is still going to play Michigan State and Kentucky and Kansas and Alabama and all those teams in the non-conference, and we'll watch Gonzaga on Saturdays and Tuesdays in December, and then we'll lose sight of them completely for 3 months, and then they'll pop back up in the tournament as a 3 seed. Like that's no matter if they're in the West Coast Conference or this fake made-up Pac-12, that's what they'll be.
All right, last one here. Jaden and Joe go over the 46.5 point total tonight. Take it or leave it.
I will take it. It sounds like Washington has got some defensive issues, and it sounds like the Bengals should score. I'm not completely sold on this Cincinnati defense right now. Hendrickson's really good. Beyond that, I mean, they've lost Jesse Bates, their best safety, who's now making plays for Atlanta. So I think Jaden and Joe do score some points tonight. I'll be excited to watch it. I talked about this at the end of the first hour. Like, I think, like, practically speaking, I want to see Cincinnati win because I think there's more at stake for them than Washington this year. But I'll be interested to see how Jaden plays, and I've mentioned this a few times throughout the show. Like, I'm really excited to watch the game. If you made me take, I would play the over 46.5. What about you?
I would take the under, I think. The Bengals offense has been, I mean, it's only been 2 games, but the Bengals offense hasn't been up to what we normally expect from them. So But maybe this is the game where they put it
Higgins
together.
Is back.
Yeah, Higgins is back. So I don't know. I just don't like taking overs in the NFL. It just feels like the under is always the play.
Down.
But
we were looking at our fantasy scores in our league.
Yeah, they've
over
been
the first
low.
2 weeks.
They've been really low.
Everybody's like hovering around 100 these days, and they're usually some 120, 130 point efforts. So offense is kind of down around the league, and it's always going to be cyclical. There's always going to be things that happen and things that counter those. And I think the defensive coordinators are figuring some things out. So Jade and Joe tonight on Monday Night Football from Cincinnati. Very much looking forward to that. If you would like to read my column on that, as well as a lot of other things that have gone on over the last 5 years in LSU athletics, you can do it over at louisianasports.net. I've got a piece up right there. I've also got a piece up at louisianasports.net talking about Harold Perkins, his absence, and what Brian Kelly said about how they replace Harold Perkins. Ross Jackson's got a piece up on the Eagles bottling up that Saints running game, so you can check that out as well. All right, that's it for us here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Open things up talking about LSU replacing Harold Perkins, then got into LSU and UCLA. If you missed any of that, you can catch it on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. Like, subscribe that channel. You can get all your LSU football coverage in one place. Saints dropped their first game of the season. Talked about that at 1:30. Find that on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. Talk Jaden and Joe, also SEC against the spread. LSU Pro Football Focus Grades, and Denton Day on the college football landscape as a whole nationally. All that's on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Look us up, like, subscribe, rate, and review. We certainly appreciate it. Matt Musco's about to drive you home on After Further Review. I'm back tomorrow, same time, same place. Enjoy some football. Jade and Joe tonight from Cincy. We're back tomorrow on the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the